What's AF asterisk CKED up fact you just can't believe is true?
The Taylor oil spill. So far it's leaked over 1 million gallons of oil into the Gulf of Mexico. It started leaking in 2004, before Deepwater Horizon, and is still leaking oil into the Gulf today. Next to nothing being done about it. Link.
In many countries in the world, cannibalism is actually legal. The only illegal thing is the way you obtain it. It's made that way so that plane crash survivors won't be prosecuted for, surviving.
The X-ray machine is largely responsible for the child protective movement. In the 40s and 50s, cases for shaken baby syndrome were noticed, causing a large push in child protection.
You are more likely to be bitten by a New Yorker than a shark.
Imagine going scuba diving and out of nowhere a big-ass New Yorker swims up and bites you. Terrifying.
In the 1980s, the Bayer Corporation sold a hemophilia D that was made from processed donated human blood. In the early days of the AIDS epidemic, it was discovered that the product was contaminated with HIV. They were forced to take it off the shelves in America and Europe. Bayer decided there had been too much financial investment in the product, and rather than destroy the inventory, they sold it in Latin American and Asian countries instead. They even continued to produce it for a few months until their supplies ran out. There's no way to know how many people were infected with HIV as a result, but at a bare minimum it had to have been in the thousands, plus however many those people may have unknowingly infected in turn, and so on. In the 1980s, when AIDS was pretty much a guaranteed death sentence, Bayer knowingly killed probably tens of thousands of people and no one went to jail. $600 million settlement. Edit, just a clarification, this treatment was not a dry pill that you swallow. That would be pretty unlikely to transmit HIV, as some people have said. It was basically taking blood and removing the rejectable parts and concentrating clotting factors and injecting that into hemophiliacs. In terms of HIV risk, it was basically a blood transfusion.
Bayer, IG Farben, also was a huge part of Auschwitz and the production of the camps. Jewish slave labor was used by them to produce pharmaceuticals, and they killed thousands by infecting them with diseases to test medications and exposing them to new chemical compounds to test the effects. People talk about Japan's Unit 731, but the same type of thing existed in Germany, but the organizers got to keep a successful company after the war. Helmut Vetter was literally getting a paycheck from Bayer while he worked at Auschwitz. The same company also had a massive presence at Dachau, Gusen, and Buchenwald, so this wasn't a one-off thing but a massive organized effort.
Ants have passed the mirror test. Few people know this.
JFK's convertible wasn't scrapped after he got shot in 1963. A roof was welded on, and it was used by Presidents Johnson, Nixon, Ford and Carter, right through to 1977.
It is at the Henry Ford Museum in Detroit. Link. Edit. Form to Ford.
I guess not really a fed up fact for most people, but Harold Shipman was my father's family doctor, so when I was a baby I was held by a serial killer who murdered hundreds of people. Every so often I remember that fact, and yeah, it's pretty fed up.
You're statistically more likely to randomly die during a USA Powerball lottery drawing than win it.
My great-uncle won the Powerball and died of a heart attack not long after.
Fungi are much closer related to animals than either one are to plants, and specifically to protostomes, bugs and worms of all sorts. Fungus cell walls are made of the same polymer that arthropods' exoskeletons are made of, and are coded for by the same gene. There have been proposals to reclassify fungi in the animal kingdom.
Human placentas now contain microplastics. Link. The youngest person to ever give birth was 5 years old.
And she's still alive and outlived the son she gave birth to.
The second most expensive house in one of the biggest slums of the world are in the same city. Antilia, $1 billion, is owned by India's richest man, Mukesh Ambani, and Dharavi, one of the biggest slums, both in the city of Mumbai. Antilia is second to Buckingham Palace, $2.9 billion.
One of the more famous politicians here in Hungary got a suspended jail sentence and a little financial penalty for the possession of more than 19,000 pedophilic photographs. He got away with it just like that. Who TF let that happen? Edit. The name's Khalida Gabor. I wasn't trying to hide his identity. I just figured people would find him on Google anyway from the information I've given. But yeah, he does have a name.
Greater than that's it. Who TF let that happen? Other pedos.
In some countries, children inherit debts of their deceased parents.
In Illinois, if your spouse dies, you owe their medical debts. Wife died of cancer? You just lost your wife and your credit and your money and your future and your kids' college fund. Right here in the good old USA.
France executed their last person by guillotine the same year Star Wars: A New Hope came out.
The number one cause of death for pregnant women is murder.
Over 50% of Americans do not have access to $1,000 in case of emergency.
I run a brain cancer foundation. It just so happens that for patients on regular Medicare alone, no supplement, the first copay for chemotherapy is about $1,000. You wouldn't believe the number of people who can't quickly come up with that $1,000. It has been shown that not getting it on time leads to an earlier death. We have a program to help pay it but just can't keep up with the demand. Elephants can control their decay like a second trunk.
I saw 2 elephants get it on in Berlin Zoo. The first startling thing was the prehensile penis finding its way in, just like a trunk. The second startling thing was all the other elephants running about and trumpeting in a big celebration of the act. All of them. Kids, adults, like a big F party. Way hey, they're doing it.
Some random dude in Soviet Russia saved the entire world from nuclear annihilation on a hunch the incoming missile warning was wrong. Edit, his name was Stanislav Petrov, link.
An educated hunch, because he only saw -4 intercontinental atomic missiles approaching, out of the hundreds the USA had at the time.
The Vatican archives are something like 50 miles of information that almost nobody can see unless they know it's there and put in a formal request to see a specific thing. My understanding is that nobody can enter just to browse.
You don't necessarily have to know it's there. The way it works, functionally, is you give them a list of works you'd like to see. They will see if they have them and, if they do, decide whether or not they want to let you see them. If they consent, you are permitted to view the text in a locked room with a pencil and paper for note-taking. It sounds draconian, but most museums operate very similarly. Understand that the Catholic Church fully intends to exist forever. Therefore, they need to protect these works forever. Protecting something forever is very difficult.
I grew up Africa. Edit. Zambia. When we were 5, we were told not to swim in dirty water because of bilharzia, schistosomiasis. Microscopic worms that burrow into your skin or enter up your urinary tract and then lays eggs inside your body.
When I learned about bilharzia at university, there was a case study about a remote village in Africa who had requested help figuring out this common health problem. So a group of doctors and scientists actually traveled there and stayed with them for a week or 2. They're determined: A. that it was in fact bilharzia. B. that they got it from swimming in a local lake. So they treated basically the whole village and explained that it came from the water in the lake, because it's contaminated with human waste. They advised them not to swim in the water and to boil it prior to use. Okay, thank you for reading till now, and here is the kicker. A year later, some of the team returned to the village to conduct a case study. There were again lots of sick people. Upon visiting the lake, they found kids swimming and people washing clothes. And they saw a sign, hammered into the ground that read, "Do not piss in the water." Sorry, phonermatting.
During World War II, Japan bombed China with fleas infected with the bubonic plague.
Let's not forget their initial defense plan of 10,000 suicide vehicles of various types. If that didn't work, it was expected that all 100 million of the Japanese people swarm invading forces and give their life for Japan in an attempt to dissuade the American public from continuing the war.
In the beginning, DuPont fed up their non-stick Teflon pans. They knew high exposure to TGE stuff was bad, but they never did anything about it. As a result, traces of forever chemicals can be found in 98% of the American population, and probably beyond.
The movie Dark Waters describes the whole thing very well. At the end of the movie they say traces of PFOA can be found in virtually every living creature on the planet, including 99% of humans.
Dolphins will bite the heads off of smaller fish and use the corpses as a makeshift fleshlight to get off. Edit. Thanks for the awards. Why can't we all be more like animals and just duck each other?
A fishlight, if you will.
That sharks have been around longer than trees. Yes, trees.
One that I personally think is more interesting is that sharks are older than Saturn's rings.
Humans are pretty slow runners compared to other races, but we are the best throwers on the planet. No other species can throw stuff like we do. This is why in case of danger, throwing things in the direction of an hostile animal may scare the poo out of it.
Being able to kill from a distance is a huge evolutionary advantage.
As recently as 1980s, many researchers and doctors believed newborns and fetuses couldn't feel pain, so some were operated on without anesthesia. Edit: when I say this I don't talk about only circumcision. I talk about really invasive poo-like open surgeries where the infant was only given a muscle relaxer to keep them from trashing during the intervention. Edit 2, here's an article from 1986 that talks about it. Link. Edit 3, an article about how those who were subjected to those surgeries were affected. Link.
The astronauts in the Space Shuttle Challenger were still alive after the failure of systems and rapid expansion of fuel commonly viewed as an explosion. Edited for the pedants.
We know that at least a few of them were conscious for a few seconds, but it's unknown if they were beyond that. Much of the evidence that was found in the cockpit was consistent with in-air depressurization, which would result in basically instant unconsciousness. They weren't wearing pressurized suits either, which in retrospect was kind of a blessing.
Some tumors can grow teeth and hair. You don't want to Google that. Edit. It's called a teratoma. Edit. Looks like it can also grow eyes, non-functioning, muscles, bones and even some brain cells.
A family member of mine had a huge growth in her womb which, when removed, had teeth and hair. They also had to remove one of her ovaries during the removal. Awful.
The sheer size of the nuclear contamination zone that's in the middle of Washington state, called the Hanford Reserve. No one speaks of how the middle of our state is unlivable due to the polluted groundwater from all the improperly stored nuclear waste.
How horribly the Amish treat animals. They run some of the largest puppy mills in the U.S.
My wife and I started a horse rescue. 80% come from Amish country and they are treated horrifically. Every single one we get is at death's door from years of being overworked while abused and neglected. We've made breakthroughs on a few but most are irreversibly scarred and we give them sanctuary for the last few years of life.
That koalas carry chlamydia.
I should see a doctor.
That we kill 100 million sharks a year.
I once wrote something on this as there was a stat that said 11,416 sharks are being killed every hour. Unsurprisingly, those rates of killing far exceed the rate at which the sharks can repopulate and many are being killed before they reach adulthood. Some species of shark live an average lifespan of 15 years, while others can live for up to 100 years, but at the current levels of fishing they're becoming hugely threatened. At present rates, between 6.4 and 7.9% of all existing sharks are being killed each year. English shark protection organization Shark Trust believes around 73 million sharks are killed for finning alone, targeted hunt for fins, and this is the major issue that needs to be addressed. China consumes 95% of the world's shark fin production and Hong Kong is the main destination for shark fins harvested from elsewhere, satiating the Chinese demand. There are only 10 to 15 people worldwide killed by sharks each year. And it is believed that in most cases shark attacks are a case of mistaken identity, with the sharks, who usually attack from below, mistaking humans, often on surfboards, for seals.
Sexual intercourse with a horse is still legal in some American states.
I read this as still illegal and for a second thought you were part of a horse effing movement.
Chainsaws were invented to cut through the pelvic bone to help women give birth.
Oh my god, everything about this is horrific. 2 young women getting pregnant, body not ready, chainsaw massacre.
You can easily kill someone and dispose of the body with bleach, lemon juice, and pigs.
Greater than you got to starve the pigs for a few days, then the sight of a chopped up body will look like curry to a pisshead. You gotta shave the heads of your victims, and pull the teeth out for the sake of the piggy's digestion. You could do this afterwards, of course, but you don't want to go sieving through pig poo, now do you? They will go through bone like butter. You need at least 16 pigs to finish the job in one sitting, so be wary of any man who keeps a pig farm. They will go through a body that weighs 200 pounds in about 8 minutes. That means that a single pig can consume 2 pounds of uncooked flesh every minute. Hence the expression, as greedy as a pig.
The original Blade Runner was set in 2015. Damn, did they have some high expectations for us.
More aircraft were lost during World War II than there are airworthy aircraft flying today. The level of death and destruction in war is difficult to comprehend.
That bees kill wasps by sitting on them and then flapping their wings so hard. This creates a high heat that burns the wasp.
Dogs like squeaky toys because it reminds them of a small animal being killed.
Which is why you probably shouldn't be frustrated that they kill them. That's like the whole point.
Data on the effects of radiation on human beings was largely obtained by tests performed by various governments on unwitting civilians, soldiers and POWs. Even the US government is guilty of this. Some of these tests were performed knowing full well that the subject would die of or be severely harmed by the radiation exposure, and the details of what happened with each increasing dose of radiation make for some pretty disturbing reading.
2050 is closer than 1990.
Cleopatra lived closer in time to the first iPhone than to the building of the pyramids. When I was in elementary school in the 1950s, the year 2000 seemed so far away. Now it's almost 2022. Blows my mind that I'm still alive.
John Tyler, 10th President of the United States, 1841 to 1845, still has a living grandson. Was cleaning the toilet and poured bleach and then Harpic toilet cleaner, ammonia. I was coughing up poo for 2 days straight. Turns out I made poisonous chloramine gas, could have killed myself if I stayed in the bathroom longer.
That's cleaning 101. That poo is effing dangerous. I don't have statistics, but I'm sure ignorance on this topic kills a few bunch of people per year.
If bees were paid minimum wage for their labor, a jar of honey would cost $182,000.
Another bee fact. Bumblebees are always 45 minutes from death in the air. They expend so much energy flying, that they need to ear every 45 minutes or die. So, they literally don't give a poo about anything other than finding a flower.
That Humpty Dumpty isn't an egg. The T-Rex is closer in time to the iPad than it is to the Stegosaurus.
Humans are faster than horses over marathon distance. For those questioning this, the post says over a marathon distance. This means over 26.2 miles. A horse is obviously faster than a human, and this post does not mean every human can run faster than a horse.
That's how we used to hunt. Jog down our prey. We could do it for hours, and the prey animals had to either walk, which was slower, or sprint, which was faster, but they could only do it for a short distances, forcing them to repeatedly sprint and walk. Eventually they just dropped from exhaustion.
That the same side of the moon always faces the Earth. It just doesn't seem feasible to me.
There is an experiment you can do that helps it make sense. Tell someone to turn around 360 degrees slowly. Face them, and circle around them while keeping your eyes on them. When you've done a full circle around them, you'll notice you have turned 360 degrees yourself. And when they, Earth, see you, Moon, again, they still see the same sight, your face, because you kept facing them all this time, equals seeing the same image of the Moon, making it appear as if it doesn't turn. And that's called being tidally locked in Earth-Moon terms.
Mr. Krabs sold SpongeBob's soul for 62 cents.
Ducks are rapists.
Edinburgh in Scotland is further west than Liverpool.
The fact that this thread is gonna end up on TikTok.
Yup, in that annoying robotic voice too.
Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.